Hello, Legionnaires. This is Max Leal from Legion of Myth, and I welcome you to Game Master Insight and tonight's conversation on reward systems and player progression, how advancement shapes behavior, and table culture. That's going to be our focus, is the table. Special shout out to our first-time viewers. Really hope you enjoy this conversation and come back again. Rumble rants and super chats will be read at the end of each segment. If you rant or chat $50 or more, I will take a drink in your name. You can also be a silent supporter via Ko-Fi and other platforms through the various links in the descriptions. Thank you for your time and support. Alrighty, let's quickly meet our panelists, after which we'll dive into our first conversation on defining progress beyond experience points. In our third chair today, we have Daniel from Driving and Dragons. Briefly tell us who you are and what content you create.
Well, I am from Driving and Dragons. I create content where I drive cars and talk about dragons. No, we do Intelligence as a Dump Stat, where I mock both overreactions to people's stupid comments about gaming and, of course, also respond to said stupid comments. I am the publisher for Corvid Codex, which is a new pulp anthology that I've committed to making at least 4 issues of. The first volume is out. It's all sword and sorcery and cyberpunk and sci-fi style pulp that is available over on Lulu. And really, that's about it. Oh, yeah, I'm working on a D30 game that, will probably be ready in 2030.
In a D30 years.
In a D30 years, my game will be ready.
All right, sitting in the middle position is Vicky, back with us again. Somehow we didn't scare her away. We'll try harder tonight. So briefly tell us who you are and what content you create.
Hello, I'm Vicky, and I am the co-creator of Untold Destiny with Evereye Games. We've currently got a free download on TTRPG, and we also have a YouTube channel where we interview indie games designers and do deep dives into their games. I've been gaming now for well over 30 years, so lots and lots and lots of experience, lots of different systems. And it's something I'm absolutely passionate about. So I'm really pleased to be here tonight.
Awesome. And the panelist who will get us started is back for the first time in a while. Bear, briefly tell us who you are and what content you create.
I'm Bear, the Gen X GM. Lizard Man. I turn on my camera, I talk shit, and I talk poo-poo, and I publish some indie stuff. No one cares. And I have a Zeg Media. That's my radio show channel where I play cool AI music. Oh, burn meat the steak and have a fun time. Make the 80s come back again. It's all very Gen X. Very nice.
Yep. All right. Well, Bear, progression can mean more than experience points. And, again, for those who listened last week, like, this sounds similar. Well, we're changing this a little bit, so bear with us here. But progression can mean more than experience points, levels, new powers, or even bigger numbers. So this segment, we're going to set the tone, set the baseline for what advancement means at the table for the table. Capability, reputation, resource, influence, player motivation, and the player's sense that choices matter for the group. And you get to start the discussion as to what that means to you.
Cool. I'm going to start off by making a blanket statement that I will not answer anything relating to Dungeons and Dragons. I firmly am making an effort in my life and in my streams now to have us have conversations beyond D&D as the default, because it's exhausting. Everything just winds up being about hit points and levels and armor class and just bleh. So, advancing beyond, not D&D style, there's a lot you can do with that, right? And especially with I run primarily superhero games these days, and there's where you get to really explore it, because they're going to pick up nemesis, they're going to pick up allies, they're going to earn or lose privilege with, legal authorities and things like that. All of their role-playing choices are going to come into play, and that's where it should really come down to. Is that if you're not worrying about, I did this, I did that, gimme, role-playing is the key. How they present themselves, how their characters interact. Now, if you've got a bunch of superheroes who are snarky and arrogant to the cops on the crime scene, the cops aren't going to be happy to see them next time. Eventually, if they keep doing it, the cops are going to become very, very opposed to them, and maybe even start looking for ways to perhaps undo them, looking for those dark secrets that are always hidden in their builds of get those extra points by putting in my dark secret. So ultimately, at the end of the day, since I'm a dirty, filthy story gamer, I firmly believe that role-playing, plot, and behavior of characters will determine what kind of rewards they can get. And those rewards do not have to be mechanical. They can literally be narrative.
That's quite cool. So it's
I'm
a
not going
nice
to talk about D&D. Here's my D&D mug.
Yeah, well, you know, like Walt Whitman, I'm enormous and can contain contradiction.
I mean, when I think about, so you've just mentioned there about superhero games, and I am going to mention D&D because we actually managed to do quite a fair bit with D&D and actually progressing, but none of this within the D&D rules I would like to highlight. But some of that was to do with reputation and then joining different guilds and different factions. We've done stuff with the Harpers. When I actually did plane, when we did a lot of plane jumping, I was actually playing a character from Sigil. I actually became a member of the Society of the Sensation and started moving up through that. We joined the Harpers at one stage, so we were moving through that. So, you know, we were undercover, and then at certain points then we started gaining a reputation. We started actually gaining power within the Harpers, and that was great fun. And all of that is really nice because it does give that sort of wrap, and it gives you something other than just your XP. And funnily enough, we've actually designed Untold Destiny for the advanced system, a legend system to help groups, so that you gain legend for your group as you actually progress the story, and as you're actually doing good things, the group can gain legend. And that to us is a progression away from XP and everything else, and helps move that forward. But I have to say, one of the most fun things we ever did was Earthdawn and Shadowrun. Shadowrun, we gained reputation within Dockwagon. We became Dockwagon. we actually did running for Dockwagon, and we gained reputation within them, and people actually wanted us to be their crew and stuff like that. And in Earthdawn, we became governors of a small town, and we started growing our reputation there. So I think there are loads of different ways that you can get reputation in any system, and I think it's absolutely important, and I think it's great for the sort of team and player progression as well. I think that always works quite well.
Well, I look at it a little bit differently when we talk about the way the topic's presented here. I look at it as either mechanical progression or non-mechanical progression. So whether it's narrative, whether it's XP, whether it's levels, whether it's improvement points for skills, reputation, whatever it is, these are all mechanical advancement to me. So this is all, when you boil it down, I do this in game, I get points, it does this to my character. Whether it's I have a reputation score in Cyberpunk and now I can face down opponents, you know, because I have such a big name on the streets that I intimidate them, or whether it's I leveled up my handgun skill, or whether it's I got a new level as a D&D character. All of these, to me, those are all mechanical progression. When I look at progression outside of XP, I look at it as, instead of just outside of XP level up character, I look at it as progression outside of the mechanics of the game, almost completely narratively. So looking at progression of the actual goals, you can say the narrative if you want to, but progression of the goals within the game. So things like, if you're playing like an old school mega dungeon, you don't really have a story. It's, you know, pop in, pop out, go from town to the next level. This is where you have things like finding the secret shortcut that lets you drop straight to level 10 instead of having to go from level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 anymore. It's not a mechanical thing. It's not something your character can suddenly do, but it is a mark of progress within the goals of the group and the goals of the game. Same thing. If you have, we developed a relationship and we're able to establish our own guild, establish our own bandit troop, our own guardsman corps, or whatever within the world. These are the things where you have non-mechanical progression. And as a game master, it's up to you to, within the reality of the world, within a realistic sense, to progress that. So, Bear talks about your superheroes come in and they screw everything up all the time. They make a big mess. Cops are going to have the consequence is going to be the cops constantly trying to figure out who they are, what their secrets are, et cetera, et cetera. And that's going to progress into, oh, well, now they're trying to set traps for you. Now they're trying to do more. And if you change your tactics, that backs off. And that's where your players get to see that progress as the game master makes the world respond to their actions.
No, but that's the thing, right? So there's two things we can talk about. And I use these terms a lot these days in my game design: breadth and depth. And they are two very different things. And depth is levels. Depth is, your feats, your whatever you're getting in the game system you're running. It's whatever makes you better at the dice rolling. Breadth is the impact on the world, how the world sees your characters, how your characters interact with that world, what non-mechanical benefit they're getting from the world, be it a contact, be it a resource, be it something that they can draw upon. And that's all I'm talking about. I'm just saying, like, you can make progression not be mechanical. And I just use the term narrative because, well, it fits, right? I mean, it's narrative stuff. But a lot of games try and cover all of it. And I think that's where they make mistakes, because then their systems get just wonky and clunky and have lots of sort of kludging going on. And as a result, they just break down under stress and they become very difficult to run. So for me, I think it's better. It's not better, but it's an option for the group to give them stuff that is not going to just be more numbers on a sheet.
I've got a question for everybody. I'm going to come in with some questions. I've always seen golden treasure and magic items as progression that's not necessarily tied to XP and stuff like that. So I've always seen that as a way of progressing the group. You all share treasure, you all gain money, you all gain magic items. You may actually find, as your reputation increases, you get access to things like different markets that you might not get when you first start out. Would you class those things as sort of group progression, or would you say that that's actually, because it's all stuff, it's not actually tied into progression?
I think that's a yes or no. That's an either or. It can be both. Because if it's just, I have a magic sword that has bigger pluses, then no, that's just mechanical progression. It doesn't matter how they come across it. That is a mechanical character sheet item. However, if I find a magic ring that suddenly is a major plot point in my story, this is progression beyond that. If I gain access to resources within the world that I have to use in a less direct fashion, other than this gives me benefit, a bonus to sneak or whatever, then now I have something that is non-linear progression. But if you're just going to give me pile of gold that I can go spend to level up, or I can go spend to get into the domain play system, or I can go to ye olde magic item shop and buy a bunch of shiny new swords, then no, that's just nothing but mechanical progression with additional steps.
So for me, I'll always refer to this, the Russian movie Wolfhound, which is probably the greatest fantasy movie most people have never seen. There is a plot point based around a sword that is just a sword that he takes, and there's a moment of him taking it. And then 2 scenes, 3 scenes later, the sword is recognized as the sword of the villain. And then that causes him a whole bunch of trouble because he's got the villain's sword. So if your items you're giving, like you were saying about this ring idea, I've never heard that before. Magic ring? What? It's not what you thought it was? What? I'd never heard of that. But the point being is that if there is something attached to it that's going to cause plot, yes, that's progression. If it's just more shit on a pile, then it's just more shit on a pile.
So, a couple of things I wrote down here while you guys were doing that. The simpler question is, can you guys think of, since you were just talking about some possible magic items, magic items or magic concepts that revolve around the group as a whole. Instead of warrior gets sword +5 and wizard gets spell, something that hey, this isn't something for me. This is something for us as a group that helps grow the group.
Well, yeah, but I mean, like it's going to vary campaign to campaign. I mean,
Sure. But this is for ideas for people who are watching.
Sure, it could in a superhero game. It could be being deputized by the local authorities that your superheroes now have limited law enforcement powers. In a fantasy game, it could be, well, now you're all part of the Adventurers Guild, and that gives you access to XYZ and contacts and things like that, and better quests. In a cyberpunk game, it could be, hey, the Monaco Corporation has now decided that they love you and they want to pay you lots and lots of Eurobucks to go mess with the Kajiwiwi Corporation. So those types of things can happen, but they're going to be absolutely based on the campaign you're doing. They're going to be absolutely based on what kind of story you're telling. If you're doing a story about explorers who are investigating the ancient ruins of aliens on Mars, well, suddenly giving them law enforcement powers ain't really going to cut it. Doesn't mean anything. It's not going to be directly in their wheelhouse. So that's where the dirty, filthy story gaming comes in, and you have to sort of consider, what do they do, who are they, in role playing and in GMing and in game design and adventure design. If you cannot answer who, what, where, when, why, how, you're not doing a good job. I'll just put it that blunt.
And there's a great example of, here's an item that is for the entire group that provides progression that is not mechanical progression or wizard gets X spell. And it's right there in Dungeons and Dragons. It's in Dragonlance. The very beginning of Dragonlance, be it into the modules or be it reading the books, of course, is the Discs of Mishakal. This is what brings the gods back to the world, or brings at least the perception, because they never left, but this is what brings back true clerics to Krynn. And the whole, yes, it's Goldmoon who's running around with the discs, but the entire party now has this thing that is important to everything in the world. They don't have to give you magic healing powers. They don't have to have spells carved on them or anything like that. They're just an item that gives the opportunity. The bad guys want it. The good guys need to get it to the right people, because this is what's going to open up the world and is going to turn the direction of the war, is going to allow us to have clerics too, not just the bad guys. And that is an item that is going to provide that narrative progression, even though it has zero in-game ability.
Well, yeah, and it also provides a new NPC for the group. Or it could be a PC joining the campaign late. I can't remember that twat's name. The other priest that joins them at some point during the story. And I mean, I can't stand the character, but he's there, and that could have been someone's PC. That could be an NPC that was shoved into the group because of the events that happened. So that's progress. The group is growing. They're meeting more people. They're getting a broader breadth of impact on the world.
And it's quite interesting, though, because you can also have not just items and things like that, but we've actually, in one of the campaigns that we played, we actually had access to Lariel Silverhand, who was basically head of Waterdeep at the time, one of the unmasked lords, and she gave us all access to accommodation, quests, stuff like that we wouldn't have had access to if we'd have burnt that relationship. So I think access to NPCs that can gain you stuff that you wouldn't necessarily have, or you'd have to spend your gold on in order to achieve, is really good. And the other thing it allowed us to do is it also allowed us to set up smaller adventuring groups that we actually sent out on tasks that we couldn't handle ourselves because we were busy doing sort of over here, but we wanted to handle something. And we actually had a whole sort of mini game side quest thing where we were actually controlling those characters, and we had like a mini game that we used to play outside, during our session, which basically said how they were doing. But we actually used to hire them and send them to do certain things. And it was all because we were working very closely with this NPC, and it allowed us to set this up. Now, this is very much, it's not progression due to items, and it's access to NPCs with power. And it gave us things that mattered to the group in the game, made it more enjoyable, and was definitely a sign of us progressing. If we hadn't made those relationships, we wouldn't have got it. And we would have potentially not been able to do all the stuff we managed to do. So it doesn't necessarily have to be tied into magic items or gold, but actually working with people in the game to further the game can actually give you so much in the way of progression. And it's how you approach that as a group. I think that's really important.
I agree.
All right. What are some interesting or weird, or however you want to term it, outside the normal box of progression systems that you've seen used for groups? Again, this isn't about individual progression, that you've seen or that you've used yourself. Starting with Bear.
I'm going to draw a blank on that one because I've never seen a game. I've never played a game that I felt really provided an interesting progression system baked in. I've only ever seen them added in by storytellers or GMs or narrators or DMs to their games as house rules. I know your beloved Forbidden Lands may have one, but I'm not super hep on that. So
no, there's a different one that if Vicky gets wrong, I'm gonna cry.
Earthdawn has everything. Earthdawn's the greatest game that ever existed. Earthdawn. Oh my gosh. God fell from heaven and he became Earthdawn.
Are you done? The panel's about you guys, not about me.
No. I'm making fun of Earthdawn. This is my point.
But
again, okay, so if Earthdawn has it, that's one game in how many years that took the time to bother putting that kind of stuff in. The majority of games don't do this because they're focused so heavily on combat, or they're focused so heavily on level progression that they skip. I mean, for Christ's sake, we've only seen the last 10, 15 years social rules become a primary thing in most new games. I mean, how many years did we play where social was like, oh, make a charisma roll, oh no, make a persuasion roll, and that was it. Now we're starting to see more and more development that way. So maybe someone will do something that catches fire, and we'll see that happen. And I could see that. Maybe the Shadow Dark carousing rules, maybe.
I mean, there are. I mean, you could. I could argue that even things like, your group of hirelings, and Vicky kind of dove into that a little bit, but your group of hirelings and sending them out, whatever gets you prestige. The idea that you were talking about earlier with the sheriff. I mean, most people like me can't just go outside and talk to, say, the governor or the duke or whatever of a land. But once you've built up some reputation, you can do things.
But my point is that you don't see that baked into the rules a lot. There may be edge cases where it is, but for the most part, it's not. Hirelings, dude, I've been playing D&D since 1985, and I've never been in. Now, maybe that's just the people I played with, but I've played with people coast to coast in Canada, and I've never seen people use hirelings. They just ignore it. You know what I mean? So much so that by the time we get to the later editions that you don't think are D&D, they don't even bother talking about it for the most part. It's like a footnote, the hirelings thing, right? Like it's something that fell off over time. So I don't know. I would say, there are ideas, but they're usually going to come from the GMs at the table for their games.
All right, Vicky?
I actually think, I played Earthdawn now over 20 years. When was first edition out?
1994.
Yeah, it's a while ago. So it was 2000, I think, early 2000s that we played, and we played first edition. So yeah, I remember the circles. I remember the stuff that we did in Earthdawn. It was fantastic. But I have to say, the stuff that Dean's done in the campaigns, it's never been baked into rules. It's always been stuff that he's put into campaigns. And we've done stuff. The stuff that we've had has been absolutely fantastic. We actually had where, as we were investigating certain pyramids, they were called clandestines. Every time we actually cleared one of these out, we would get blessings, and these blessings were basically feats, and the whole group would get them. We'd have a list, and you'd be able to actually choose one. So that would help the whole group progress, and you couldn't get these blessings in any other way other than following these quests. And yeah, we absolutely loved that sort of additional progression. So I think it doesn't necessarily have to be baked into the rules. I know Earthdawn did low. I loved Earthdawn, but it's so long since I've played. I remember my circles. So I might disappoint you there, Max. I might have forgotten the actual progression, and you can remind me.
Well, it's the two that always come to mind are just the reputation system alone, and then group patterns, where you could bind yourself to the other players in the group and increase your abilities that way.
Now. It was good fun. It was always good fun. I loved Earthdawn, but as I said, it was early 2000s, I think, since we've played. Very long time ago, and I'm getting old. But yeah, I do find giving people access to certain things that are only available as a group by you doing certain things, and it also helps drive the story along. We actually had something else where we're trying to rebuild the Mythal across Mythdrana, and we were going round, and there were these special pillars that we had to basically sort out, I think the phrase would be. We had quests to do these, and every time we managed to succeed at the quest to reignite one of these pillars, the Mythal would flow through us, and we would gain, and the whole party would gain something. And that was also fantastic. I think tying progression into your campaigns, so it's not necessarily tied into your rules, is slightly different, and that works really well.
Okay, and Daniel, what are your thoughts?
Well,
I can ask the question again if you want.
Go right ahead.
It's like whether magic items or whatever it happens to be, a progression for your group. What interesting ways have you seen, or have you done yourself? Have you seen somebody utilize that's outside the box? That isn't just the normal, here's your XP, here's your whatever, but something that affected the group. And I'm also going to throw this one because this one's too easy as well. And I'm not talking about the group APC that you got. Like something that actually, said, hey, this shows that we're a group, that the world recognizes we're a group, and we're progressing as a group.
Well, I mean, to me, once you make it mechanical, it's no longer an alternative type of group or otherwise. It's no longer a alternative type of outside the box progression. At that point in time, it's just progression. It's even if it's arbitrary, like say an AP assignment system, where it's the group all like communists get the exact same amount of XP regardless of what they do, and it's all based on however the game master determines how well they succeeded a mission. Or you get an advancement in the reputation system based entirely off of arbitrary game master decision of how something happened. You did something that created a reputation in the game. Once you tie it to anything mechanical, you've just made it a mechanical progression. It's now something that player looks at and says, oh, okay, I do this, I get that. And it just becomes another, hit the button and make the treats fall out. Even if it is a narratively driven mechanic. So when you're looking at additional progression, I think it has to be things like faction based, and not, if you codify it, it has to be codified behind the screen. It can't be something where the players understand, oh, you got X faction points with the knights who say knee. And so now you have better standing with them and you can say knee to people, even old women. But the fact of the matter is, it has to be something that is behind the screen that they can't figure out and track. But you maybe have like a faction system where they're building up, things they do either increase or decrease their standing with one side or the other. And they eventually come to the understanding that they want to hide certain actions because it might decrease their standing with a particular group. But it has to be kept separated from the mechanics of the game, or it's not really alternative in any way, whether you homebrewed it or not. So I would say, anything faction systems or mass combat systems that I've used in the past would be the closest thing I could think of that really fits the bill here. Is I've used combat system. I've run campaigns where you have a mass combat, like this battle will happen. You can see the storm on the horizon. It's coming. there's going to be a fight. And can we get them to Waterloo, or is it going to be Leipzig, or is it going to be, where is the battlefield going to end up being? And what can the players do to make that battlefield more favorable to them? So now the missions that they choose to complete and the quests that they choose to ignore end up having a direct result on the way that that battle is going to go when they get to it. They can see that progression as they see the noose tightening, or they see the holes in the enemy's defenses opening up because of the things they chose to do or chose to ignore. They decided that, oh, that's a character hook. I don't want to go attack that supply train. I'm going to go take care of these bandits in the wood over here. And then it's like, oh, wait a minute. Now I'm in a much worse position because I have a well-supplied enemy who's getting ready to attack this city, and I'm not going to be able to escape this giant army because I decided I didn't want to take a hook. So I went to go dig in the mountains instead of taking care of this supply train that was nearby. And obviously doing that in steps to where it's like each of these missions has more and more effect on the world around them, but it can't be tied, at least not player facing. It cannot be tied to a mechanic. Otherwise, it's just regular progression.
Now, in response to that, I do want to say, oh, what sad times are these when passing ruffians can say "ni" at will to old ladies.
I am a level 7 knight who says "ni," so sad times are here, baby.
Well, I am Roger the Shrubber. Anyway, no, you're not wrong. If it becomes a mechanical codification, then it's no different than a feat or a level or a class ability or a special ability or a superpower. So that's something you have to watch out for if you're looking for something that's going to progress the group beyond the mechanics. Sometimes the two can go hand in hand, though, and that's kind of fun as well. In the case of, a contact that can then provide resources, assets, or support. So you can have a little bit of the two mixed together, but ultimately, it's you got chocolate in my peanut butter, you got peanut butter in my chocolate mentality. They are great separately, and they can sometimes work very well together.
Yeah, I think one of the problems with a lot of the games, especially specifically for tonight's discussion, is that so much is tied to individual development that it's hard to break that out into what's specifically for the group. I'm not saying it's not there, but a lot of things keep tying back to where's my XP, where's my feats, where's my hit points, whatever game you happen to be playing, where a lot of that other stuff can be missed. And then there's always the whole, but what if the group breaks up? What does that do with, some sort of group benefit?
The campaign's over, man. Like, the group broke up. I'm not running 6 campaigns, so too bad.
One of the other things that I've seen, and I have to say, Dean does this. So as part of parcel of what we do is we tend to have what we class as threat tokens that are given out. So when a group does something well, Dean will say, "Oh, here you go. I actually think that's brilliant. You now have." And it will either be gained through legend or be gained through doing something fantastic. And it is arbitrary. It's down to the GM. But then the group can decide how and when they want to spend it. And it has to be a group decision. So it can be used for a reroll and stuff like that. So you can sort of twist your fate. But that's very much tied to the group. And it isn't an individual sort of thing. It is a group thing. And that works really well. Ooh.
I have an example of a bad thing. Wow, that was fun.
That was cool. How did you do that?
It's on Mac. They have these weird effects that sometimes can happen, but they don't always trigger. It's weird. It's very sensitive. It doesn't do it all the time. It'll do it in weird moments and then be like, why'd that happen all of a sudden? But anyway, a bad version of that is the Doom or Momentum or whatever it's called in the 2D20 games from Modiphius. One of my players, we were going to play Conan, and he read the book. He goes, I want to play. I said, why not? He goes, because of the Doom pool. So why? He goes, well, other players can take from the Doom pool, right? Yeah. And then they can take, and that gives you Doom to use against us, right? Yeah. So I've never taken from the Doom pool as one of the members of the party. But idiot stick over there who refuses to fail a roll is constantly pulling from the pool. Yeah. So now you can fuck me over. Sorry, you can screw me over with all the meta currency you've accumulated from his choices. That's not fair to me as a player. And I was like, you know what, man, that's a really good point. Like, I got to.
So there is one counter that I actually agree with that. Anybody who watched us cover both? What's that one? The oh my god. Well, we covered Conan as well. I forget the Mutant Chronicles. Is that there are two? There's actually two. You have the momentum, but you also have, and I forget what the points are called, like fate points or whatever the heck it is, that are solely yours.
Yeah.
And those don't go away. The other thing about momentum is it goes down, so you kind of have to use it because it goes down. I just don't like any of that kind of meta currency nonsense or whatever in my games. Other people love it. I do not.
I'm with you. I detest meta currencies. To me, meta currencies drag you back into the game or out of the game. They make you think too much above table.
Yeah.
Because it always ends up like this. All right. I want my player characters. I want them to, their characters need to act the way people in the real world would act.
Mm-hmm.
But the player, especially when you talk about something with meta currency, the players never do that. What they do is they make a video gamey calculation behind their character sheet of how much meta currency they need to save up to cheese this attack over here, or cheese, or finish that thing over there. And it turns into a situation where the meta currency the only thing the meta currency ever gets used for is completely destroying the tension, completely eliminating all of the mystery, all of the excitement, anything, because it's like, okay, well, we're this is clearly the boss monster we're going up to fight. Time for everybody to dump all their meta currency in the first round and take all their benefits and get 14 critical hits. And now he has 7 hit points for him to fight the whole party with. Because
I'm going to say curating your table will handle that problem real quick.
It can,
Yeah.
but I'm talking.
I'm sorry,
about
I have never seen people play like that in any game I've
there's
ever
an
run.
inherent flaw in the system. Like, my players don't play that way, but also don't use meta currencies.
Well, there's kind of a difference between gaming store and as you guys are talking about your curated group. I see a lot of that stuff happening at like gaming store or convention type stuff. But my group, no.
But so I look at it like there's some things like this one kind of fits a little bit. There's a mechanic in Professor DM's new game, the Deathbringer game. He's got a final blow death mechanic that I'm really in love with as a mechanic. I think it's fantastic. It's basically once you hit 0 hit points, and the way he has it set up right now, you have to be a higher level, and it's like the 3rd time you hit 0 hit points. But the time you hit, when you hit 0 hit points, you're not dead yet, but you can either face the death save type situation, or you can basically sacrifice everything, and you're going to be dead when you're done, but you get one great heroic action.
All I was thinking when you said that was, I'm not dead yet. I think I'll go for a walk.
I feel happy.
Exactly.
Really a flesh wound.
Yeah, but you get a fantastic. Basically, I'm going to turn my last action over to get a guaranteed critical success on whatever I do. But when I'm done, that's it. I'm dead. There's no resurrection. There's nothing. Yeah. It's over. And that is something where a player can exercise that narratively. They can't control when it happens because they have to be dead when it happens. So unless they're going to run up there and be like, hey, hit me, I'm trying to get my free critical hit, they can't really exploit it. And it gives a massive benefit to the party and progresses the narrative of the story ahead in exchange for, all right, I'm dead, but I'm going to make my death mean something.
Yeah, but see, I used to do this in all my superhero games, which was if you got killed, which was a hard thing to do, but it could happen. If you got killed, you got what I call the last action, which was before you dropped, you got to do one thing, and it couldn't be killing the guy who just killed you. Go. You know what I mean? And in some cases, it played out really well, and sometimes it didn't, but it's again, your table is going to dictate how these things, bennies and currency and all that can be just fine with the right group, and with the wrong group, even not having them can suck. I mean, that's table curation. So if you're doing breadth level progress for your party, for the party, and you have those players that are like, I just give a shit about my stuff, man. How many levels I got? I want more monsters. I want more golden treasure so I can kill more monsters and take their golden treasure. Then you're throwing pearls before swine. And it's a wasted effort. And maybe you shouldn't run that table. Just saying. You know, I mean, that's a personal thing, but that's, you talk about giving advice to new GMs. This is a great conversation because what we're talking about here is the idea of rewarding players for being involved in the meta of the game, being involved in the story of the game, and being attached to the campaign setting, like you did say in Codex Albana, Max. You were very, very attached with your character. I also, you know, shoehorned you into a couple of things that made you get extra attached, but we won't get into that because I'm just a dirty, dirty mean GM.
Fair. I hear where you're going with this, but this is so perfect for segment 2. Can you hold on to that for segment 2?
If I'm awake by segment 2, I promise you I'll hold on to it.
Write a note so you don't forget what you're saying here, because we really do need to jump into segment 2, and I think what you're going to say is perfect for that, even though we are starting with Vicky for that one.
Well, we'll start with Vicky. I'll make another cup of coffee while you start with Vicky.
Okay.
But I will add on to that. Like, one thing you have to remember that mechanics can do. Yeah, you can have a bad table, but good mechanics can actually help mitigate a bad table in a lot of ways, because mechanics, what they reward is what you're going to get more of. You're using mechanics to steer players into a certain kind of behavior. They may start doing that behavior because they get a reward. They end up doing that behavior naturally because it becomes second nature, and they see the outsized extraneous non-mechanical rewards of it. So, referencing back to that same death mechanic, this requires a player to sacrifice themselves for the good of the group, which 99% of tabletop role-playing game players are not going to sacrifice their character for the good of the group.
But then you'll have the one guy who does it 10 times because he thinks it makes him important.
But that's also one of the things that we always want. You always want the paladin in hell. He ain't there with a party. He's by himself. How do you think he got there? Because he sacrificed himself to fight those demons while the party escaped or something. But the modern players don't do that because they're like, well, I'm going to lose my character. There's no way I'll win that. You know, don't split the party. We got to make sure we have all of our stuff together so none of us die. So when you give a mechanical benefit that rewards the rest of the party to incentivize that kind of behavior, then they get to see how cool it was. And then next thing you know,
again, like I told Bear, though, you're really talking a lot of segment 2 right now. So I want to pull back on this just for a moment and kind of reattack this in segment 2 when we're literally talking about incentives and consequences. Can you hold on to that for just a moment?
I sure can.
All right. Any final commentary, Vicky, before we move this along into segment 2?
No, I think we've covered everything, but I would say that you can always find things other than XP in order to reward your group, but think about it. And when you're a GM and when you're a new GM, just also remember, don't make it so overwhelming that you end up struggling with the whole of your game when you do so. Because sometimes if you suddenly make something too powerful too early on, it can really make the game a bit wonky. So just always consider how you're rewarding them and make sure that it's sensible for what they're actually doing and makes sense. That would be my last bit.
Okay. Well, let me see where we are here. Oh yeah. So in the next segment, like I said, we're going to be talking about incentives and unintended consequences, which I knew it was going to be hard. Actually, I'm surprised it took that long for them to dive into that. I thought that was going to be one I was going to be pulling them out like in first 5 minutes. So good on them for that. But I know people want to hear it because that becomes the meat and potatoes of this. It's like, okay, you told us what we can do, but why does it matter? So we'll talk about that in just a moment. But who do you believe had the most compelling, interesting, or novel position? Did you learn anything from any of these weirdos or me? No, you didn't. Not from me. You didn't. Let us know in the comments. Be sure to like this video, subscribe to all the panelist channels. Your watch time, your comments, your shares really do help this type of conversation reach more RPG fans. And by the way, I've been really trying, I'm just horrible at it, trying to occasionally remember to pop into Instagram and Twitter. You know how much I hated those things? You know how difficult that is for me, but I've been trying to do that. So thank you to all the folks out there who've been sharing and retweeting and whatever else they call it out there for the posts for this stuff. So thank you all for that. And finally, we are looking for panelists like you. Not you, that guy over there, her over there. Yeah, there we go. Sign up on the GMI Discord, read the rules, and find a panel topic that interests you. Now, let's take a look at some super chats and member comments, and then we're going to get into segment 2. It's right up. I don't want to delete that. There we go. New member, Bane422. Thank you very much for becoming a member. Appreciate that. And, new member, you got access to a few thousand videos now, probably half of which you don't ever want to watch, but they're there. Oh my God, Jess Laws. I don't know why I was trying to say something else, but Jess Laws, a member for 1 month. It's a month already. I know, right? And thank you very much for re-upping. Absolutely fantastic. Thank you very much for that. Vindicta RPG says for €5. Hey, that's a little more than $5. I don't know how is the euro doing right now. But great panel, good chat, good time. Don't worry, we'll ruin it for you. But thank you for the $5. And Jess Laws says, "Is that an I or is that an L?" Now they don't. Is that an I? No, I hope that's a lowercase L, not an uppercase I. Or I'm screwed.
It is laws.
No,
Is it laws? Okay.
Laws. Yeah.
WTF is meta currency. I think people answer it in chat, but the quickest answer is this: it's kind of a gamification. It's something outside of standard role playing or standard rules. The most common, I think, is called hero points from like Pathfinder or whatever, where you get a little widget or a point that you can use to re-roll something later, to give you a bonus to something later for some reason. Sometimes it's used in lieu of experience points. Sometimes it's used alongside experience points. Different games do it differently, but generally speaking, it is a type of currency that isn't in the game world. It's outside for the players.
Yeah, it's right there in the word. Meta, meaning above or outside. Currency, I can spend it.
I will let
hate
you
the
and Arch
Savage
argue
World's name
definitions.
for it. I hate the Savage World name for it, Bennies, because it's
Oh, me
benefit.
too.
Like it's the Bennies just sounds like sorry, I'm just gonna rant for a quick second. My biggest problem with everything in the naming structures in Savage Worlds is that they break immersion to the world.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not doing Old West, it breaks immediately. Grit and this and that. It's like, good God. Anyway.
No, I have the same issue with Benny's. I was like, I'm not a 3-year-old. I use my words,
That might be nice.
Now, hold on. I got to do this. Look at that. Oh, wait, that's conversation. Why is this in backward order? I don't know what I'm doing here. There we go. So, all right. With that out of the way, we've read our chat. We have moved on to segment 2 here. So we will start with Vicky on this one in our second conversation, which explores incentives and unintended consequences. So, Vicky, award systems teach players what the campaign at your table values, whether the game master intends that lesson or not. Now, this segment we want to look at how incentives strengthen adventure and encounter design, shape table habits, and sometimes push the group towards behavior maybe no one's planned. So what are your thoughts?
I think there's so much out there that GMs can use to incentivize players, and a few examples of this, and a lot of the time it's within campaigns. So I'm very big on campaign play. Whenever we played Earthdawn, Dungeons and Dragons, even in Shadowrun, we've always done campaign play. And when I have a look at how those campaigns are structured, it's always good to have goals that drive or support the team to actually go and achieve something. Now, one of the things that we tend to have things that give, if you like, rewards. And one of those things is we had something called the Altar of the Gods. And the Altar of the Gods, we managed to find this, and Dean had actually designed it so that if we could literally ask for anything there, though we didn't know that, but we knew there was something special about it. Now, there was an unintended consequence of this. One of the players, he did a massively brilliant piece of role-playing. And then, right at the end, he then went, but it doesn't really matter anyway, because I don't believe in gods. Right at the Altar of the Gods, something that had been designed to give us access to good things. And it could have basically given the whole group an increased attribute and stuff like that. We literally could have asked for anything. And he then turned around and said he didn't believe in gods anyway. I went, and walked off. The next time we were in a combat and he needed healing, the cleric cast healing, And the unintended consequence, instead of it being a benefit for the group, it actually meant that healing no longer worked for him, because healing was clerical magic, it was divine, and he didn't believe in the gods. So I also think that when you have a look at what you're doing in the way of rewards, you also have to think about how the players are going to interact with it and whether it can be positive or not. Another example of this is we were heading into Undermountain. And in Undermountain, we'd heard rumours of a shadow dragon with a throne of power. And if we could get to this throne of power, we could get hold of a wish. And it was a case of anybody who sat on this throne of power would be able to ask for something and they would gain a wish. And we thought, great. So we actually achieved that. But the unintended consequence of us heading into Undermounting was, and funny enough, it was the same guy. There's a bit of a theme here. As we were going along, part of Undermountain, there were these levers and there was these signs, whatever you do, don't pull this lever, don't continue down this path, don't pull this lever. And he got to the end where this lever was and he went, oh, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go up and down, up and down, up and down. And this was before the rest of us could get out the room. I lost every single magic item that I had, as it was basically a Mordenkainen's disjunction. And I literally went in there. We were high-level characters. We had loads of stuff. So we went in there to get to this this throne of power. And I literally, within the first few sort of rooms through this dungeon, I basically ended up naked. And that was definitely an unintended, well, not quite naked. I still had my underclothes on, but all my magic items, poof, gone. So you've got to think about how people are going to use this. We had plenty of warnings. It told us not to go there. It told us not to pull the lever because bad things would happen. But not only did he pull this lever once, he did it about 8 times in quick succession. And every single one of those we had to roll the save for. And I failed every single roll. Every single one.
So did you take him out back and string him up to something and say,
strangle him?
Yeah.
Draw and quarter him.
It was, shall we say, a feisty session. But you look at
the old William Wallace, put a piece of his body at every point of the kingdom,
He certainly deserved it, I can tell you. But again, when we were playing another campaign, we actually had to we were trying to get this ritual of rebirth off. And this ritual of rebirth was going to reinvigorate the region. It was going to bring back gems. It was going to reinvigorate all the mines. All the resources were going to come back. And we worked for months working towards this, right? The reward was going to be the region was going to become better, and we would be rewarded for that. We would help all of our local community. I actually had a shop in the community and everything. It was a massive campaign. The trouble is we actually succeeded in the ritual of rebirth, but the unintended consequence is that you just don't suddenly put everything back into a mine without it going from somewhere. And we basically angered the gem dragons as the magic pulled through all the gems that they had in their hoard and brought it back through to Ben Tharambar and repopulated all of these mines. Then the next time, I was quite a high level mage at the time, we cast a portal, we cast a portal. We actually got drawn through this portal. Because the gem dragon then started to come through to our world because it was going to pillage to get all its treasure back. Now, you can weave all of these different rewards. We got some amazing things from this ritual of rebirth. I mean, personally as a group, personally as a player, and the whole campaign, we gained a lot, but there was unintended consequences to what we actually achieved. But you can weave that into your stories to make it interesting.
Gem dragons, you say?
Yeah, it was, yeah.
Truly outrageous. Truly outrageous.
It was. We started to draw.
I'm good. That's my time.
It was a bit scary, and yeah. And we also drew Baphomet was drawn to all of the areas where there was renewal because of what was there. So we ended up causing a lot of problems.
Was Dean the storyteller on this campaign?
Yeah,
I'm never playing with Dean ever.
Yeah, he's twisted. He is
And
twisted.
I might have hurt you a little
Dragon
bit
happy.
more because you'd have restocked all these mines, would have had all their gems and stuff back in them. And, the third time a peasant comes into town with a shovel full of diamonds, you find out that gems are now completely worthless.
Yes.
A
consequence.
I have wrecked your entire. Congratulations, spell of renewal. You have wrecked your economy.
This is absolutely the opposite of a benefit consequence of PCs, right? They came into town, they were throwing gold around like maniacs. Next time they come back, the economy is inflated to insane levels because everyone's like, can we give us a pull these cheap things? Like, come on, you got to really, but this is consequence, and consequence is a part of the breadth of progress, right? Setback. If your campaign has no setback, if the players are just constantly succeeding and always doing well and always winning, then they are learning nothing. They are affecting the world in no realistic way. And as a result of that, are they really getting the most out of the campaign? Setback is what lets us strive harder, try different ideas. I hate to say Tolkien mapped it for us, but he did. Look at all the setbacks that the Fellowship goes through before the end of that goddamn story. It's very important because it drives the story. Constant success becomes boring, becomes pedestrian, becomes rote, and it's not fun anymore. It's just roll the dice, kill the dragon, take the treasure, repeat. You know what I mean? Boring.
If you're walking into town throwing money around and acting like a fool, then there should be somebody trying to make that old prophecy that a fool and his money are soon parted come true. You shouldn't be able to sleep in any inn in town because there's 15 people who have no criminal history who've decided that suddenly banditry is a great idea the second you go to sleep.
Yep.
You have to incentivize the behavior you want. Now you can mechanically incentivize it, and that's great. But that's what you want to do. You want to set things up in your world to incentivize the behavior you want your players to have. And if they're going to run around and murder hobos, like, my players are murder hobos. They're such murder hobos. Why are they not hanging from a tree?
Well, and also the city guard, right? How many times do players stand up to the city guard and act like bigwigs because they're PCs and in their brain they've calculated these are 0-level guys? Well, in my big city, the city guards are like 3rd and 4th level fighters because they're like the guys that can handle it when the stuff goes wrong. And the players find out real quick when they decide to step up to them. Oh, that was a bad idea.
So there's another part to
killed, right? Sorry, go ahead.
There's another part to that. You're absolutely right on that. Here's the other side also that I've seen happen. The players will get angry at the game master. It's like, we're supposed to be the players. There's no way that let me guess, all the guards are gonna be blah blah blah. Well, whatever, dude, whatever, just do your thing. And they act like they were supposed to be allowed to do their shenanigans.
Yeah, and there's a very simple answer to those players. I'm sorry, bye.
Yeah.
The door's over there. Don't let it hit you on the way out. Thanks for the Doritos. Curating your table is a valuable skill that GMs need to learn, because if you're putting all this effort into making the world have consequences and have more verisimilitude and have it be something interesting, and they just want to kill stuff and I'm the big bad guy in the world and I do what I want and I don't care what people say, well, then that people aren't for your table, and that's okay.
That's what World Star Hip Hop is for. When they start saying something like that, I just pull up World Star Hip Hop and I show them a video of somebody deciding to smart off to a cop. And then all of a sudden, 9 cops are tasering the shit out of him on the ground and he's pissing himself in the parking lot. It doesn't matter how big. Guy rips his shirt off, has big muscles. I'm going to beat you up, copper. And then 9 of them shock the crap out of him. See that? This is what happens when PCs decide they want to mess with the town guard over and over again in a major city. So maybe treat this like the real world and you won't get these consequences.
But this is something that is a modern gaming invention and does tie into progress because NPCs can become valuable to you. They can become allies or enemies. They can be something that affects your interactions in the world and also your benefits in the world. But if you treat them just like things with exclamation points above their head that just give you quests and or gear, you need to stop playing role-playing games and go play computer games, because I hear so many people complain about, my NPCs have way too much personality and they talk too much and this and that. What do you want them to do? You want them to just stand there and go, yes, sir, that's a great idea, Captain Superior. Great. Yes, sir. Agree with you 100%.
I want that.
A boring game that would be, right? That would just be the most boring game that was ever run at this point in time. So consequence of interacting with NPCs should be more than just click the icon, get the thing. It should be, oh my God, I got to negotiate with this guy. Oh, this guy doesn't like me. Why doesn't he like me? Because I'm wearing the banner of House Blimblerblock on my shield, and his father died or lost his leg in the Spring Rebellion, where Lord Flungadong went against House Bimbleblock and
write down these
lost, and now he's like, yeah, they're good names, man. That's my skill, coming up with games. But the point is that the world needs to be alive. The players' interactions with it need to affect it, but they also need to be affected by the world. And then that kind of progress will teach the players. If we take, again, the Codex Albana game, because you're here, Max, it's a great thing. You take your character, Athane, in the first session versus the last session, and the way he interacted with the world had changed dramatically for him because of the events and consequences and benefits and situations he had gone through. They formed him. You made different choices based on his experiences. That is a form of progression. That is a form of moving the game forward.
Well, let's continue on with that for just a moment from my perspective, because it wasn't just an Athane thing. And to be very clear for this folks who are watching, the segment is supposed to be about group growth. There were group dynamics that didn't just happen in the whole, what was it, forming, storming, norming, performing, blah, blah, blah. We all went in directions that, one, to be clear, supported me and my character's growth because somehow I became the center of attention. But all the other characters grew around that. And as we worked together, as we did, bad way to say this, but as we did what we were supposed to do, the world rewarded that. When we didn't do what we were supposed to do, I don't know, like running off because somebody poked his eyeball out, then the world didn't reward you properly. Okay, and let me change the English on that. Just properly didn't reward you. There we go. So yeah. Now we're talking a lot here about more role playing style of stuff, and maybe that's the direction that this needs to go in. Maybe this is what people need to understand, that game mechanics are more individual, but the group awards are more GM focused and more existential. Is that the word I want to use here? But ultimately, to get Bear back on track here, or get back to Bear on this, is there were a lot of things that wasn't just an Athane reward. In fact, I honestly hated it, but it was a character reward, and I had to play my character, and my character grew and had his challenges with that. But it made the entire group grow at the same time, different ways, each individual to the player and to the character, but it made the group grow.
Yes, and that's the secret. All right, you want to talk about always making this about how to help the new GM out there and give them some ideas? Make the world real.
But don't you think that consequences is such a massive part of that? If you don't have a consequence to your action, it breaks the fourth wall. And at that point, that's when the role playing and that's when the progression actually breaks down. You need those those consequences to keep you in the moment. And I think it's absolutely vital. And when you're starting out as sort of first level and you try talking to a baron, a king or whatever, you will not get through the front door. But
Can I give you a superhero example?
Yes, go on.
Okay. I've run superhero games since 1986. Okay. I've run my own world. I've run the DC world. I've run the Marvel world, but I've run amalgam worlds. When my players in a Marvel game wound up going to Castle Doom in Latveria and talking to Doom, they lipped off. They were rude. They were insolent to Doom. Because they don't care, because it's Doom and it's their moment to shine and be all like, fuck you, Doom, whatever, right? Like one guy when they were getting to their Quinjet, he stood up and like, thank you, Latveria, good night, type thing. In my home game, the equivalent of Dr. Doom was a character called Baron Dread. And Baron Dread was an evil wizard who basically was very clever, very smart, and pulling a lot of strings. They had battled him in various campaigns. We were playing another campaign, and they wound up coming up and finding out he was the bad guy that was running everything. And they're like, well, we're going to stop you, blah, blah, blah. And he goes, you'll never stop me. I've already put my plan in motion. There's no way for you to defeat me. I am far more intelligent, powerful than you. And 3 out of the 4 players went, I guess he's right. We're never going to beat him. And the 4th player's like, what are you doing? They're like, it's Baron Dread, man. If he's going to beat us, he's going to beat us. And that is a fascinating thing. Because Doom, while riding on reputation in a Marvel game, Baron Dread had been something they'd encountered. They'd had themselves be thwarted, upended, or what have you by him. So that villain, as a result, had way more impact on them. Inversely, Superman shows up in the DC game and says, all right, guys, we got to go do this. Some of us might die, but we got to get it done. And every player's like, yes, sir, Soups, right away. In the homebrew game, we'll call him Megarion. I don't remember what the guy's name was. Megarion's like, hey, guys, we got to go do this. And they're like, yeah, and? So, no, guys, this is Megarion. Everybody loves Megarion. Come on, Players are so weird when it comes to how they'll interact with NPCs. So the only thing you can do with your NPCs, bringing it back to making it real.
Yes.
Make your evil villains competent, unless they're meant to be buffoonish. And make your noble and complicated and your noble heroes noble and successful, so that when they come and ask the players to do something, they go, yes, sir, King Rendar, I'm absolutely happy to work with you on this one, because we know you're the guy who, slayed the Shadow Dragon at the Mountain of Tears. We're in. You know what I mean? Like, that's the thing. Make it real.
Yeah, and when I said make it complicated, sorry, Daniel. What I mean is give them sort of layers, because you might have someone who is your big bad, but it's like you can't be bad all the time. And if you find that your players get a connection with the big bad and understand their motives and what they're doing, it can actually add a layer of realism into the game that you would otherwise lack. So don't just think that you have to just have completely evil and horrible. I mean, Dean's he's fantastic at doing this, and it's really annoying. He creates bad guys, which over time you learn about their motivations, and even though that they're bad guys, you've got to go up against them, you actually understand and you can empathize with what they're doing and why they're doing it, even though it is evil and wrong, and you have to stop them. And that means that you have that connection in the game, and that in itself has consequences because of how you feel when you're actually playing. So sorry, Daniel, I just had to get that out. It just I can't help it.
The long and short of it here is that Bear said it the way you have to say it. Make your world real. Yeah. Realism matters, and realism also extends to your characters are not caricatures, and that includes all the NPCs. They are not stereotypes unless you are deliberately making them a stereotype for a reason. And it's like, oh man, he's evil. It goes back, when you look at the alignment, which is a big bugaboo of mine. I was like, well, why is he doing that? He's evil. Well, evil just means his general outlook. It means the way his brain works. It means how he thinks. It means the core of his being. It doesn't mean that he's going to be like, man, I would benefit a whole lot more for doing this good thing, but damn it, I'm evil, so I'm going to do this thing that's going to screw up all my plans. This is not a Saturday morning cartoon show where Skeletor runs around and goes, I like being evil. That's not what it is. Yep. And going to the topic at hand, the biggest issue a lot of game masters have, especially in the modern day, is they're very good with carrots and they're very bad with sticks. They're afraid to pull the stick out for their characters, and as a result, they end up with their characters being the 2-year-old who thinks or the 6-year-old who thinks it's okay to lay down in the grocery store and throw a temper tantrum because Mama won't give him sweeties. But when he lays down to throw a temper tantrum and Mama pulls the belt off, he learns real quick not to throw a temper tantrum in the grocery store. You have to have both. Your rewards will never, ever, ever have the effect. The carrot will not draw them on if they've decided that they don't want it right now. The stick will always motivate them.
Well, and
if
also,
you don't have the stick, the carrot will not work.
Evil villains as a form of progress matters. There's a movie called Brain Smasher: A Love Story. It's actually not a bad movie. It stars Andrew Dice Clay and Terry Hatcher. It's actually not a horrible movie. And at one point in time, the bad guys are these Red Lotus monks. And at one point in time, they're talking to him about something and what the guy wants to do. He's like, why you want to do all that? He goes, I am not some cartoon villain. I don't long to be a kung fu thug for the rest of my life. I have dreams, I have ambitions, and that ties into the idea of your NPCs. If you want the world to feel real and you want the players to feel like the world is reacting to them, your villains need motivation. Your heroes need motivation. The farmer has motivation. He wants to get his crops done. He wants to make sure that the field is properly moisturized. I don't know what the word is. There's a word. I can't think of it. I'm too tired. He wants to make sure there's enough water for his crops, etc. That's basic. What does your villain want? Does the evil wizard just want to sit in his tower all day long and cackle over skulls? Probably not. He probably has some plans. And remember what Christopher Lee said. Evil people don't think they're evil. They think they're right. And that's what matters more than anything else. And if they're progressing, the world will progress with them, and the players will be caught between those two things and have to make decisions that can alter the course of history, which is progress. If they save the kingdom, that's a reward. They're now the kingdom savers. They've got reputation, they've got name, they've got value, and they're going to pick up some new enemies who didn't like what they did and are now worried they're going to come mess with their shit. You know what I mean? Like, these are the ways you run a game and make it real, make it interesting, give it verisimilitude, give it effect. Don't let the players just be murder hobos, unless that's what you want to do. And if you just want to play a murder hobo game, awesome. Don't ever play in one of my games. You'll hate it. Scene.
All right. Sorry, I had an incident here with cats trying to kill each other and my wife dealing with that. So I kind of stepped out for a second there. But I did get some notes written down for that. Let me see if it matters now. Oops, hold on. There we go. Nope. I'll get that later. All right. So in this segment so far, you guys have been talking a lot about consequences on the negative side. And I get that. Group punishment. And to be fair, you did just mention, hey, the idea of doing this elevates your group because you're now known as the savior, the king, or whatever. Are there any type of rewards that help a group and they don't necessarily realize that it's helping? That I don't want to call them invisible rewards, but rewards that a game master can do that that are more behind the scenes, more subdued, more obfuscated in terms of direct, like, here's your ding up, here's your money, here's your ribbon, whatever it happens to be, that you can think of that that helps a group over time and shapes the play.
Intelligence.
Yeah, so we start with Vicky. Sorry, it was segment 2, so start with Vicky.
Intelligence. There's nothing better than having made connections in the world that bring you intelligence and stuff that helps you formulate your plans. And it's one of those little nuances that can be put in very easily. It's the barkeep, that hears of rumors of something that you might be looking for. It's someone that you've met and you've done things with, or you've done quests for, or you've basically established a relationship that then walks into a bar, or you meet on the street, or I was running a shop and they would come into the shop and they'd go, oh, you know what? And that starts building out. We actually had a really positive consequence of something where we were checking out some creatures up in the mountains or something, and we ended up integrating them into our town. Instead of just wiping them out, we found someone within that group that was highly intelligent, and they just wanted, so we actually set up different trade routes and everything, but we gained far wider intelligence for the region because we'd made those connections. And it wasn't something that Dean expected us to do. He expected us to go in and wipe out these creatures, and we just went down a slightly different path. And it doesn't need to be an immediate consequence. It could be something that happens over time. And I think that's really absolutely key. And intelligence and giving you information that then helps you formulate your plans as players, or just gives information about what's going on around the world, wider than your sort of area that you're actually adventuring in. That is really important because it breathes life into the world. It gives you options and choices, And the more choices you have, the more real it feels, because that's what we like as humans. We like choices. And as players, we like choices. And information being dropped in is choice.
Well, psychologically, we don't like choices. We just
Yeah,
think
we hate choices.
we
I
actually
love
overwhelmed by them.
choices.
Never give more than 3 choices because people will just get analysis paralysis. But okay, alternate to that is also the idea of help behind the scenes. All right, we know that there's the Southern Army is coming towards us, but we know that they've allied with the barbarians to the north, and we've got to deal with the Southern Army, but we're leaving the pass of Ganderfall open behind us, and we got to get around to doing that. What are we going to do? Well, you know what? Remember that NPC we had, Sir Valinor, who everyone didn't like and thought he was an arrogant prat, and well, he felt bad, so he's gone off to prove himself as a knight, and he's rallied up an army, and he's holding the Northern Pass until you can get there. What? Oh, and then you get there finally, and he's dead, and all those people are dead. And now you've got to deal with that. You got to deal with, like, if we, this man sacrificed himself, does that inspire the players? Do they feel bad because they kicked him out of the group because they thought he was an arrogant ass? Like, there's all these things you can do that are going to lead to role playing. They're going to lead to character thought, character progression, character choices. And it's the more of that you can do is great. And they don't see it until it needs to be revealed to them. And then they see it and go, oh, Shiza, something happened. That's big, It could be a wizard helping them behind the scenes. It could be a council of merchants making sure that there's going to be a supplies where they need them. It could be a cleric order that has basically dedicated themselves to their cause and are making sure that wherever they show up in a town, one of the brethren is there to make sure they're healed and okay and things like that. So there's lots of wheels that can move behind the scenes that they don't know are happening until they happen, and then realize, hopefully, if you present it properly, that it was their choices, their actions, and their events that led to it.
Yeah, sometimes we've even had stuff like access to accommodation, really little things, but it's made a massive difference.
All of that plays into it, and stop me if you've heard this one before. Making your world real, making it realistic. There's 2 of us who might have possibly mentioned that once or twice. All right. Let's just play a thought experiment here. There's 2 identical villages, and they both start off the same. Village A has the PCs there, and they're doing stuff for that village. They're going out doing the stuff they're supposed to do. They're stopping the bandits. They're raiding. They're going into this old mine and bringing out this treasure. All this stuff's coming back into town. That's not happening in town A. It's only happening in town B. Well, what you end up with is town B doesn't have bandits around it, disrupting its trade routes, making things more, things are getting cheaper because it's easier to get them there. More resources are being brought in, so more things are becoming available. Bandits and stuff aren't showing up at town B anymore because town B has these adventurers, and it's easier just to go to town A. So the realistic implication of the players being there and doing these things and helping this town should mean that your reward is that town grows with the player. The town levels up just like the players level up, and more is available. And on top of that, because the players are now, in this example, are a serious economic asset to this town, next thing you know, the town is doing a whole lot of things to make sure they want to stick around. They're doing a whole lot of things to make life a lot easier for them because they have basically developed. They've made it's like, hey, wait a minute, we can't get rid of these guys. I mean, we don't want to be like the jackasses over there.
All right. Who has goats? We can give them daughters. Who's got goats or daughters? Come on.
Yeah. But you also make that town a bigger prize, which means bigger enemies that want to mess with it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Now, maybe you need to convince the town that instead of giving you guys all this extra treasure, all this extra stuff, or giving you a big house in town, maybe it's smart to say, you know what? Don't build a big house for us. Maybe we should build a wall.
Well, this is so Dragonlance and Lord of the Rings have done us a little bit of a disservice for fantasy role playing in that we think we have to be mobile. Right, the murder hobo. We have to be moving at all times, and that always drives me nuts because people are like, "I want all my coins." Well, you carrying that much gold with you everywhere you go? Because eventually, a 500-man bandit team is going to intercept you on the road to get all that stuff. Whereas the benefits of being in a central location that you're building up, protecting, it's almost like pre-domain play at that point in time. And you're doing something interesting by, like what he said, making the village interesting, but you're also going to make it more targetable. You're going to make it more of an interesting choice. These types of things can be their own form of progress. They can be their own form of reward. Again, goats and daughters, Sir Thrust-a-Lot's in for that, and just hope it's the daughters and not the goats, hey.
Okay.
But
Yeah, we
that's-
probably
that's-
should end this segment here soonish, but I do want to ask one more follow-up question. What incentive have you guys seen or used or been a part of? System looks good on paper, but actually causes problems during play.
I'm sorry, say that again, please.
What incentive system looks good on paper? Like, oh, that seems like it'd work. And then you see it in action, and it actually causes problems during play.
I know it's Vicky's segment, but I've got a good one on this one.
Yeah, I've got
Go
an
on,
answer too.
Well, you start off then, and I will swoop in at the end.
I made the brilliant decision to give my players a Baronecty. Now, here's what happened. They were successful when they weren't supposed to be successful, and the Grand Duke of the area they were in was not super thrilled about that, but he'd made promises and now he had to pay up. So he gives them the backwater, basically a Baronecty that's a massive drain on resources. It's in debt all the time. It owes everything money. The mine is half collapsed. The crops aren't coming in. And I'm like, yeah, you guys are like losing like 50 talons of silver every year. So it's like you're essentially $1 million in the red every year. And I'm like, yeah, this is going to force them to, like, them having to build this back up is going to be a big thing. Well, stupid me, I kind of forgot the game mechanics and stuff. And, they have a druid in the party. So the next thing you know, the druid's going around and every single farm is now a giant bumper crop as she's just going around casting like growth spells and enrich earth and stuff like this all over all these farms. And they're going in and they're digging up the mines and they're blowing stuff up with fireballs and that sort of thing to get the mine running again. Next thing you know, I'm like, I've created a monster. My players have this Baronecty, and by my own rules and my own things they've set up, they go across into this desert country because they're a border Baronecty, and they make inroads and trade relationships to turn the bad guys on their border into friends. And next thing you know, I've got these players sitting around and they're like, level 9, level 10, something like that. And they can sit on their butt at the castle and are netting like 15,000 gold each every month in free money that they can just do whatever the hell they want to with. They're building armies and all kinds of other stuff. I'm like, how am I going to get them to go on a quest without, 15,000 troops going with them? Because I totally screwed that up. This was an incentive that I should not have given them.
One thing to do is look at Berserk as a choice for inspiration, right? You have the whole idea of the Banner of the Hawk. They've saved Midland. They've become knighted. They're nobles, but the king is super jealous of them. The king is super jealous of their popularity. The other nobles are jealous of their popularity. They don't like that these commoners have been bumped up to sudden noble status, and everybody starts plotting against them. And players being players, just like, Griffin being Griffith, are going to fuck up and let their little things take over because they now feel untouchable, and they create their own downfall that then is then exploited by who they thought were allies, and they're suddenly enemies. That is where a benefit can go wrong for the players, not for the GM, man. That's just, nothing goes wrong for the GM if you stay light on your feet and just react. Don't plot, react. Always know why the reaction is happening. Always understand your world, your characters and everything well enough that their reactions are, for similitude, real, but you react to what the players do. Therefore, the players will always feel like they're living in a world that they have impact on, and even when something goes bad, it can be a progress and lead to something better down the road.
And you know what? Let them have their win, so to speak, for a while. Okay, you've got your win, but people get jealous. I mean, what is the number one reason for going to war? Like, you have resources I want. You've got fields and mines and so forth. well, I might not be big enough to beat you, but I know these people over here also want some more fields and mines, and these people over here also want some more fields and mines. Maybe we could team up to take you out.
Yeah, you've got 15,000 troops. Well done. We've now got 50,000.
Yeah.
And like, we're going to go take over your abundant mines and your abundant fields and kill your 15,000 men, or maybe just buy them out from under you. Like there's lots of ways the scenario you described could play against them if you wanted to be a little more with your players.
Oh, it eventually did. It just took a little while.
Yeah. Which is good. No, that's a good thing. That allowed them to have, savor their little victory for a while. I think that's a good thing that game masters don't just immediately try to find a way to pull the rug out. But,
yeah, you can't give somebody the +5 Vorpal sword that you were never supposed to give them and then just magically take it away.
Right.
That's how you piss off all your players, because then it turns into, oh, wait a minute, nothing I do matters anymore. Because if I do something really good, the DM's going to put the proverbial glass ceiling above me. And you can't do that. You have to
always make it a consequence.
Yeah, and you have to be realistic. You have to make the consequences realistic within the world. You have to make the world realistically respond. And sometimes that means you have to sit down and eat crow and watch your players get fabulously wealthy and hire every magical smith in the land just hammering out magic items all over the place.
I do think
guards with like +4 weapons.
Yeah, I remember one of the campaigns that we played in. We had a sword called Cabal, who he used to change fate, and one of the characters actually destroyed a whole plane because the sword suggested it to him. It was a very much a intelligent sword, and this sword actually destroyed a whole plane. We were trying to save this plane, but because this sword made a suggestion to the player or to the character actually followed up on it and destroyed everything we were trying to do in that moment in time. I remember being rather grumpy about that as a character at the time, because of the way, and that was definitely a consequence that was not foreseen. It wasn't the way that it was meant to go, and it was like everything. Dean tempted this player with power. The typical, if you do this, you will gain this wonderful power sort of thing. And they fell for it and absolutely destroyed this one thing we were trying to do. And then we spent time and time again having to fight back and claw back from this. And that was really hard. And we've had that in Earthdawn as well, where the sword was it was a sword talking fully enough to the same character. And the same person playing a character, and they never shared what the GM was telling them this sword was saying. So we never managed to put the final pieces of the puzzle together. And along came, I think it was Verdigorm or someone, who basically the horror came into the world and destroyed us. So yes, if you plant certain things with certain players and they don't actually work with the rest of the group, it can actually completely undermine your whole campaign. Yeah, those damn
real quickly
swords.
For the folks out there, Verdigorm, imagine if Satan created the earth instead of God, and he was a horror that could be summoned into the world. It's the most powerful evil being in the game. Verdigorm is actually capable of corrupting gods. So, that's all they summoned into the world. Okay, sure.
Yeah,
well,
you can guess how that went.
Intelligent.
This is Elric, right? This is the end of Elric. At the end, I was 1,000 times more evil than you. I mean, that's consequence, unforeseen tricks.
And intelligent items are really great for that. So are obvious plants. I remember one time it was a vampire-esque story. I did rip off a thing straight from Vampire Hunter D, where the vampire lord was galloping through town and all the holy symbols were like falling apart and breaking and exploding as his carriage went through town. The players found where he was parked during the day, where he was hidden, to try and basically take care of things while he was in his casket. And in his giant magical, whatever it's called, carriage, they found there were these 3 powerful magic items on the wall. Like they can cast detect magic, they can see they're powerful. And there was a 3-headed flail that was far more powerful than the other 2 items. And I forgot what the other 2 were. One of them was very, very obvious that this is kind of the thing you need to take to, complete the mission, so to speak. Another one was pretty mundane, but still pretty decent. And then there's one that was obviously more powerful than the others. Well, of course, they grabbed the powerful 3-headed flail that has shocking and lightning and fire, shocking and fire and frost and all these magical abilities. The only problem, and hey, they can fight the vampire lord with that thing. It's incredibly powerful, especially for their level. There's only one problem, is that it was basically possessed by the spirit of the Macho Man Randy Savage, and it cut promos on everybody they came across. And if they were doing poorly in combat, it mocked them the entire time and gave them minuses from morale. So the next thing you know, their new quest as a party is finding the materials to make a magical sheath of silence to put over the top of the stupid flail. Because every time they show up in town and they need to talk to a sheriff or talk to somebody, that flail is sitting there telling them that they're not the cream of the crop and that they're going to take the elbow drop and all kinds of other stuff, and just pissing off the entire world because they decided to pick the powerful item.
Nothing means nothing. Yeah.
All right. Well, with that, I think we're ready to head into segment 3.
I hate your guts.
Wrap up this discussion. So in our third conversation, our panelists will talk about redefining success in the long game. And this isn't about just saying, hey, as long as you had fun, you did it right. But it's gonna go deeper than that, looking at how these rewards may change over the long term. Because what you need when you're a youngster isn't always what you need when you're elderly. There we go. So, who do you believe had the most compelling, interesting, or novel position? Did you learn anything new that you may try at your table? Let us know in the comments. Don't forget to share this video with your communities and friends, and use that hype button if you've got access to it to get this conversation trending. Without your monetary support, there will be no more Game Master Insight in 2027. Finally, you or someone you know may make an amazing panelist. Maybe, just possibly. So sign up on the GMI Discord, read the rules, and find a panel topic that interests you. Now, let's finish the segment with your super chats and member comments. And there are a few. So starting here, Lord Lauren Soth gifted a membership. And and he gifted another one. So thank you very much to the 2 folks who got memberships. Hope you enjoy them. There's some content I would stay away from, but you know what? I can't tell you what that is right now. So enjoy what you got access to. And members only streams. Not at the end of this month, though, because I'm going to actually have Bear back, and I forget Doc Flamingo, and who's the third person?
Mr. Max.
Oh, Mr. Max Poivant, yeah, to make up the stream that we didn't have on the 3rd of July next week. So so thank you for them for messing with their schedules to be able to come back and do that. Did that one. So next is I don't know who this joker is, but he says something like, why is that bear fellow so handsome?
Genetics.
There we go. Thank you, Bear, for the $7.50 Canadian.
I wanted to make it $5 American. I figured that was roughly about the same. Yes,
Probably about right.
We in this country have never heard that joke before, ever.
What's that?
Was it $2? Yeah, it's three maple sugar leaves. Yeah, we get it.
Oh, I want that.
Five moose pelts and a beaver tail. We get it. Yeah.
Now, this is a little bit of a lie, but not quite. It says Law Dog is a new member. He is not a new member. Law Dog upped his membership from the $4.99 or whatever it is to the $25 a month.
Oh,
thank you very much for that. We now have a couple of folks who have elevated their memberships, and all of that helps keep us around for another year or 2 or 3 doing panels like this that we enjoy doing. So thank you very much, Law Dog, for that. Absolutely appreciate it. It's been a really good support of the channel, and I don't know what $25 gets you versus $5, but I've been tweaking the giveaways a little bit, so maybe that'll be the thing. I don't know. I just have to make sure I don't automatically give somebody like that a win. But and then the next one on the list here, Poly Robotics, also been a good supporter. What game system, and we'll start, this is Vicky's segment, we'll start with her first. What game system in your long-term RPG progression, similar to TSR, D&D, and Palladium books, so that the high-level characters and starting players can be used... Wait, what? Okay. What game system in your long-term RPG progression, similar to TSR and Palladium, got it, the high-level characters and starting players can be used in this discussion?
So I think, is he referring to being able to put low level and high level together?
So more
and
like
not just
Traveler, like something like that.
Maybe. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
Let's
Yeah, mixing up high levels and starting players. Well, funnily enough, you could manage that with Untold Destiny, which is our system, especially when you start looking at our advanced edition, which is next year. You would be able to mix your lower levels. You just need to work very closely as a team, so I can tell you that. Trying to think if we could have done that in Earthdawn, because it was very broad at the base.
No.
You could
You cannot not have
No,
somebody
we'd
be
die.
effective.
Well, no, they could sort of tail along and carry
Yeah.
your stuff.
It's very similar to D&D that regard. Once you start circling up,
Mm,
the abilities that
it's
players
too much,
get.
isn't it? Yeah, so I'd say Shadowrun you could, though. Shadowrun you definitely could. I'm just trying to think of all the games we've played.
Shadowrun is
yeah,
actually a really good game for going wide instead of
Yeah.
deep.
yeah, very much so. So I'd say Shadowrun is probably the best game that I've played where if your high level character dies, it doesn't really go high level. You just get more sort of dice. It's very sort of flat. You could easily bring in a new character and it'd fit in with the group. So yeah, I'd say Shadowrun would be my answer for that one.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, let's bring it over to Bear. What are your thoughts? Like, what's a good game for you for a long-term game where you can have high-powered and low-powered characters in the same group?
Well, it requires currency. It requires meta currency, the thing you all tend to hate. But that can be the great equalizer for the lower people. They get more of it, so that way they can stay in the fight longer. But also, you have to break the mentality that all solutions are punch, kick, stab.
Yeah.
Right? That's the thing you got to break right away. So, for example, in the game I ran last night for Heroic 5e, they got to a door that had a DC 20 to try and override the door, computer stuff. They couldn't figure they none of them could do it. They were rolling shit and they couldn't get through the door. And then one of them, who has a electrical travel power, used his electrical power to travel through the control panel to come out the other side on the inside and be able to open the door from them to there. Well, it didn't matter what level he was at that point in time, right? So it's you got to think beyond hit. And that's the problem with a lot of game design, and that's a lot of the problem with a lot of the way players think. They look at everything in balance of how much damage can I do and how much damage can I take. There are other ways to be effective other than dishing out DPI. That's all.
I'll even one more time, Bear. I'll go one step differently for more jerk players. They actually don't care about that. They care how they rate compared to the other players at the table. They want
their issue.
Yeah, well, no, I agree, but I've seen that a lot where it's like,
Yeah.
well, yeah, I'm only like level 3, so I can't do anything. You can do a lot of stuff. Well, why? Well, over there, he'll just do it all for me. What? Like,
Well,
he can't be two places.
I always want to ask at that point in time when I hear that, I always want to say, why are you role playing?
Right.
I always want to ask that question. Why are you here? Like, what go play a video game.
Haven't you heard you can win at D&D yet?
All right, go ahead, Daniel. What are your thoughts on that?
For me, that's a simple solution. Make levels not a thing. Cyberpunk, Call of Cthulhu, games of that nature. There are no levels. Yeah, you may have much, much higher skills across the board. You may have somebody who has all the cool cyberware, who's really decked out, who spent thousands and thousands and thousands of eddies on weapons and gear, and is wealthy and powerful, and their skills are all bumped up. But he gets stabbed with a switchblade and he dies because he still has the same 15 hit points that he had at the beginning of the game. And the switchblade still hits him for 3d6. So, same thing with Call of Cthulhu. You get shot in the chest, you're probably going to die. And, of course, it really doesn't matter how quote-unquote advanced or high-level your characters are when the enemies are things like Dagons and Yog-Sothoth or Shub-Niggurath. I don't know. Should I actually say that name, or do I need to
No. I mean, you can. I don't care. Yeah, you can say it.
Well, no, I'm just saying. I don't know if YouTube's algorithm
I
is going
don't
to pick
care
up the
about you.
middle syllable and say that we're all evil.
There are things that we know we're not supposed to say. We can stay away from that. Things that are closer.
You could just say the goat of 1,000 young.
There we go.
Good.
All right.
When you're fighting the Yellow King, it really doesn't matter how many high-level players are in the party.
So one more thing I have to do here. I think we might have. Yeah, we have a couple more chats anyway. Polyrobotics, thank you very much for the $50 super chat. I didn't forget. Here we go. And you made me finish this one. So we're now out of the Revelation, which is the highest alcohol content of the 3 bottles that I had. So thank you very much. Actually, it wasn't bad today. All right. So Off the Rails roleplay is the plot going forward. The world being immersive is the reward. Now, before these guys jump in, I want to say I agree. But I'm going to ask these guys a question, starting with Vicky. How do you... No, handle is not the right word. What are your thoughts on the player who's like, I don't care about that stuff. That's neat, and I'm glad it's happening, but I want the tokens, the widgets, the ribbons, the XP, whatever. I want the bling that says, I'm better because I showed up and I made progress. What are your thoughts on that?
My thoughts about that, and funny enough, I think it's going to echo something Bear said. It's how your table is composed. I tend to find if you've got like-minded people at your table, you tend to drive in the same direction. And I do think if you find that you've got somebody at the table who's just like, I'm not interested in forwarding the story. I just want stuff. Now it can fit in, and they will just do less of the other stuff that the rest of the players are doing, or you'll find that they disrupt the table, at which point they have to depart. And I think that's really key. If you don't move things forward together as a group, and you have someone who disrupts and is just going to go after the higher, and we've seen it in, I explained about what happened with some of the items that we had, which were very high level and basically disrupted the party because somebody wanted the power, and didn't actually care about the story and where the sort of campaign was going. At that point, you have to, if it keeps happening, you have to think, well, is this the right composition at your table? And the consequences help drive the behavior back to what it should be. But if the players don't learn from those consequences, or if it gets frustrating for the rest of the table, then you have to make changes to that table. That would be my advice on that. And it's a horrible thing to say, but sometimes you have to make that decision for your table, because otherwise you've just got someone who's just going to go after the highest level
But there
stuff.
is a style of play that is just all about kicking in the doors, taking the stuff, and getting the next.
Absolutely. Find the right campaign that does that. And I'll give an example where I was actually playing in a campaign, and I actually had the opportunity to get this sword, which would have made me leader of the elves and everything else. And the sword actually gave me this vision of me riding on this horse, holding the sword aloft. And I actually turned around and went, no, I'm not the right person to do this, but I will carry you and find the person that should be wielding you. And that was really hard, because I'm not joking. The GM at the time gave me so many indications that it would give me, I hate to use the phrase, unlimited power. And I did sort of waver, and I did waver. And what I found out after the campaign had finished, if I'd have actually accepted that sword, the sword, and said, yes, I want to do this, the sword would have basically wiped me out there and then, and I'd have died. So I was very pleased that I didn't fall for it. But there has to be, it comes back to the consequences. So that's my bit. I think
So-
hopefully that made sense.
It did. So Bear, Daniel, same thing. This was the original point that got to the plot going forward, the world being immersive. But what about the players who don't seek that? Who are like, no,
Get out
I
of
get
my game.
I understand that they don't want.
Please.
I understand that. Same with me. I wouldn't want them at my table as well. But with that said, there are those players out there. How would if this is what that person? No, I can't say it that way. How would you reward those players, or how would you envision those players being rewarded?
Well,
I wanted to give my comment on what Max said first, which is I can't believe it missed. I believe it the 4D guy, but I agree with the 4D guy. As to the question itself, I honestly me.
Okay, that's fair.
Get out of my game. If you're not into the story and what we're doing and all this cool shit, and you just want to kill monsters and get treasure, my game is not for you.
It depends on the situations here. So it's perfectly fine to have a group of players that are all a little bit different. Sometimes you can benefit from having like a power gamer who doesn't necessarily care much about the narrative in your game. He can help allow, depending on the game system you're running in, of course, because some are a little more forgiving than others. But if you've got the big power gamer, that is going to allow other players to play characters that are maybe what you might call suboptimal, but they're interesting characters that are great in the narrative and they're fun to have at the table. But when it comes to combat or anything mechanical, they're disadvantaged. Having that power gamer in the group can actually help that out, so long as that behavior does not become disruptive. So if I've got the guy, like if I've got the group and everybody's playing along, and I got this one guy who just has to have, it's all about the pluses, it's all about the better sword or something, I'm going to find narrative things that make it to where the other players want to find him the badass sword, want to find him the next shiny, and then they're going to get their narrative kudos. They're going to get their story progression that they're enjoying, and that gamer who only really cares about the gamist side of things is going to pick up and get the stuff they want. And is, like I said, as long as he's not disruptive. Now, if you got the guy who's the insufferable murder hobo, who when he decides he's a little bored with the story and wants to screw everything up and pisses off the rest of the table, that's when you sit him aside and you say, look, dude, this ain't the table for you. If you can't let them have their fun while they let you have your fun, then you don't need to be here. But as long as you can have your fun when it's your turn and let them have theirs their way, it works out just fine.
Let me regale you with a tale. They've been captured by the city of Amazon women. They know there are werewolves outside in the forest, so they kind of have to stay in the city to avoid death. And one of the characters is being held captive by the Amazon queen. And as they charge into the throne room to save the day, one of the players, in a very dead serious Arthurian legend style campaign, shouts out at the top of his lungs, "I want to speak to the man in charge." Now,
Death by
funny. Sure, funny. Very funny.
No.
Absolutely broke the scene, broke
Yes.
the moment, broke the tension, everything. So there are other types of players who aren't just murder hobos or just, stat monkeys. There's other things people can do to break that progression of the campaign, to break the player's immersion into the world, and to break the feeling like things are being accomplished or tension is ratcheting up. It's the Joss Whedon school of quippy snark right after tense moment. You know what I mean? It's not going to be for every game. And it made that guy really mad, I can tell you that.
Well, I guess that's we're going to go right back to what I was saying. It depends on the group. It depends on the player. Sometimes that, even in the more serious campaign, may be something that actually is kind of funny, and everybody has a laugh, and then they can turn around and go right back in. And
what would have been funny in that scene is if they'd have been like, "Oh, you think so?" Shunk, and he was laying on the floor bleeding.
So, but yeah, there's a lot of things that could have been funny there. But it's also there's a social awareness. These are social games, and there's a social awareness that has to go with that. And sometimes that means that you have the person who just has no timing, and you need to pull them aside and say, "Look, dude, you're just not funny."
All right, we do have to move on because we're still in the super chats. We're not even in segment 3 yet, so do have to move forward with this. We have Lords. Oh, we already did that. He did it extra gifted, and we have one more new member. Johnny Angels. Thank you very much. I don't recognize your name, so I'm guessing that is true. You are truly new. Yep, got the little new thing by your name up there. I see that. So thank you very much. Enjoy the access to the extra however many videos. I think we got like 5,000 when it comes to members. Maybe 400 or so are good. But check those out. And you'll get access. We're going to try to do a members only stream. I've talked with Heathen Dog about that. If I have to do it by myself, I will. But we're going to try to do a members only stream for folks, because next week, which would normally be members only, we're actually going to have Bear, Doc Flamingo, and Mr. Max Pavon here to do GMI on the topic that we missed at the beginning of the month. So, because I cut out my own internet, because I'm like that. So with that, where are we? Segment 3. Okay. So who do you believe had the most compelling? Didn't I already do all that? I did all that. So yeah, we're going into the banner that they already saw. They got a sneak peek of it already. There we go. Look at how happy he is for his long-term success. He's playing with shells. So let's kick off this third and final conversation that focuses on redefining success in the long game and the kind of the concept behind that. Well, you know, no, I don't want to do that to them. They can take it however they want. But there's a little bit of a concept behind that. And we will be starting with Mr. Daniel for this first one. So, Daniel, sir, early rewards create excitement, but long campaigns need progression that remains meaningful for the group. So this segment is going to ask what success should look like over time and how reward structures shape group development, player investment, and table culture, and how does that change over time?
Well, and the long and short of it is it goes right back to, once again, everybody, and it's going to be a big surprise, make your world real. All right. Real progression is consistent. It goes over time. It grows. It has a compound interest effect. As I do more, I get more. And I put that more back in and I get even more back out. That's what it has to look like. Yeah, you have your early stuff. You have your early rewards. They have an outsized impact right away because you don't have anything. But as long as you're running a world that continues to behave correctly, it continues to behave like an actual world, that progress takes care of itself because the world continues to evolve with the players. The players continue to have more influence over the world. As they gain more power mechanically, they have more power narratively, and they can face bigger challenges that thus have bigger rewards and bigger impacts on the story. Now, all of a sudden, instead of taking care of some bandits, there's a demon prince that's coming through that has to be taken care of, and they're the only ones who can do it. And that's, maybe it has to do with that item that they've had basically since the beginning that, Bear mentioned Berserk earlier. Maybe they're the one who's got the little egg with all the eyeballs and stuff over it that every second it sits there brings more and more and more powerful demons around.
The Behelit.
So, yeah. So it's when you talk about what is the long-term success looks like a world that your players are always excited to get to the next step in. They're always excited to see how it's going to trump, how the world is going to trump what they saw last time. How they're going, how it's going to move in a way that they have to respond to. That becomes the reward.
Are we in segment 3?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I'm lost. It's okay. I'm allowed to be lost.
Do you want me to give the lead in again?
Please.
Okay, yeah. So early rewards create excitement, but long campaigns need progression that remains meaningful for the group. The segment asks what success should look like over time and how reward structures shape group development, player investment, and table culture.
I feel like I'll be repeating myself if I answer that directly the way you say, but things like allies, resources, enemies, the world reacting to them positively and negatively. It's what we've been talking about for 2 hours now, which is that you can just build up things that are not mechanical or may have mechanical benefit that progressively make them more competent, more capable, more options available to them that allow them to then feel like they're accomplishing something in this world. That's what I would say.
Okay, so let me do this then. Again, I know where you're coming from, but for somebody out there is like, okay, I got some ideas here. How how is that how do you say that in a tangible sense? Like what specifically, they've got allies. What kind of allies would be good? And we're talking at low level, mid level, or high level, or whatever terms your game uses.
Okay, so let's take D&D. All right, I'm going to break my rule and talk.
Oh, already broken.
Oh, you broke your own
2 hours.
Shut up. Walt Whitman, enormous and can contain contradiction. Deal with it. Nuance. What a crazy idea. So, low level. Hey, the town mayor really likes us. That local priest really likes us and helps us out a lot. The local man at arms has taken an interest in making sure that we're trained better and can fight better. Mid level. Hey, that abbot thinks the shit out of us. The baron really likes us a lot. Ooh, the local militia lord knight commander has taken interest in us and is helping us make sure that we can level up through training and things like that. Higher level, later in the campaign. Holy crap, we're friends with the king. The Pope really digs us. The head of the Night's Watch is invested in the fighters' training and maybe possibly wanting to bring him into the Night's Watch at some point in the future. Those would be tangible ideas of what you can do just with the allies option. I'll let others talk about the others, but that was, I'd say, for the allies.
Awesome. Yeah, it's having access to allies and also equipment and resources that are appropriate for the level, and that also gives you the choices at those levels. If you immediately make a first, a low level group suddenly being able to access ridiculous high level NPCs, etc., without them having to do any effort, they need to make the effort to gain the access to the different levels that they need to be able to gain resources. So first level, yeah, you're right. It might be the barkeep giving you rumors. It could be, that's the sort of level of choices and exposure you might have. It'll be a low level town official. It'll be the head of the guards. It's exactly that. And then it'll also be the same on the resources you gain access to. It'll be the lower level resources, but how then you choose to interact with those will then direct how you get into the next level. If you have poor relationships at the low levels, you're not going to get good relationships at the higher levels, and your reputation will precede you. So that's how you build up. And what you do is, as players, is every success you get and every time that you make a good decision that supports the campaign moving forward, you then gain benefits, and then you gain access to almost like the next sort of available set of resources, people, allies, and people who might want to not see you succeed. Yeah, and that's the thing. You open the next set of doors, and that is steady progression throughout. In one campaign, I actually had a shop. And I mentioned that before. And I even had to staff it when I wasn't there if I was off adventuring. But it also, my shop was a target, because guess what? Because of my adventuring, I could actually grow my shop. We actually created a whole system. Dean created a whole system around how successful my shop was and stuff like that. And you look at, that gave me access to certain things I wouldn't necessarily have had. But it also opened up that was a target. They could get to me via my staff or my shop. If they took resources away from that, that could actually affect me. So your bad guys have to sort of grow with the group, and that's part and parcel. It's part and parcel of developing a world that's real. At low levels, you're a blip. You're not on anybody's radar. Nobody cares. But then as you grow, then they notice you more. Same as as your enemies grow, you notice them more. So it has to be that sort of thing. And writing these campaigns, you have to think about, well, what are they doing? They won't know about you at the time. You won't know about them, but what are they doing? How are they moving the world forward for them? And then at the point where you intersect, that's when it gets interesting. So that's
always
what
remember,
I would say.
There are jealous people out there. How did
Yep.
she get the writ for the store? How did she get noticed by such and such? Oh, because she went out. Like, I'm sorry, I have a real job. I have to tend the fields out here. And
Yep.
she goes out and plays over in some hills and whatever, and digs up some rocks and comes back, and now she has the ear of the mayor. Well, that's why we're not getting, even though it has no truth in what's going on. Well, that's why we're not getting the funds we need to get better seeds, or where I can hire better hands.
Yeah,
or whatever.
jealousy.
Yep.
Jealousy is a real power. How much time do you see in our world that jealousy is a big factor? So start looking at how that would actually factor into your world, how people would perceive someone being successful. Success doesn't always breed adoration. It can breed an awful lot of jealousy.
No. And remember, familiarity breeds contempt.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So the more they know you, the more people are going to start turning on you.
Yep.
All right, Danny, anything you want to add to that? Because I do want to get to segment 4, but we got a little time. If there's anything else you want to put on top of that for segment 3 here.
Put a big cherry on it.
Not a ton. And all I can say is that I detest it when my players decide they want to waste time doing things like build shops. My shops, anytime that kind of thing happens, unless it's just incredibly funny, they end up having really terrible employees who steal from them all the time and that sort of thing.
Wow.
Especially because I don't understand it. It's like, especially D&D players have like the worst grasp on basic economics on the planet. And it's like you are paying your shop person like 15 times the average wage. Like, why are you doing this? And I remember one time they came into this, they ended up having to kill the innkeeper because he betrayed them because they were being stupid. And one of their players was throwing money around in town, so they tried to kill him that night. Well, okay, he got tipped off by the barmaid, and they killed the innkeeper and his thugs that were trying to break into their room and rob him. Well, we got to take over this inn now. He goes, I guess I'm going to take over the inn. And he ends up giving the tavern wench like 10 gold to get everything fixed up and running and stuff while they have to go off on this adventure. And then when they come back, he's like, I'm going to come back and check on my inn. And I'm like, well, it's still completely wrecked. What happened? And I'm like, well, give me gather information, whatever you want to do. He's like, all right, I'm going to ask around town, find out what happened. It's like, well, apparently when you left the town going north, like an hour later, that bar wench was headed south real quick. And apparently there's this new woman that came into town several towns over who's really rich and bought herself a big, nice house. Because your stupid ass gave her 15 gold.
You see, that's where that would have broken realism. Because would you have really given them 10 gold to somebody who didn't?
Any player gave her 10 gold.
Yeah, you have to, because most D&D players now are in a anarcho-syndicalist commune, right? So it's got to be like, it's got to be the Chaz of Waterdeep. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, there's no more guards.
They take it in turns to act as a sort of executive officer for the week.
Exactly. And defund the watch.
Yes, defund
we
the
actually
watch,
we actually built a whole system around this, and we are actually going to release it because it really worked well with our world. Because similar to what Max was talking about earlier, we were stationed. I think it was Max mentioned it, where we were stationed in one place. So we started off in Ben Tharambar. I'd actually gone to Ben Tharambar specifically because I was going to open a shop. So that was part of my background. And then what happened is, as part and parcel of this, we built a whole system around running these shops so that we could do it. And they got realistic wages. And we had to do loyalty checks and stuff like this. And there was like a little mini game on the side. And I could lose money. And I could gain profit, and it was all very much within the economy of the world. So it kept the realism.
May I interject, though?
Oh, of course.
I run a business. I'm not interested in role-playing running a business.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I know. I do the
my
same.
characters ever made that I actually liked is they got to the Tomb of Horrors, and they realized that the arrow traps always reloaded. So they set up, instead of going deeper into the Tomb of Horrors to find the treasure, they decided the treasure was to
don't tell me they milked the arrows.
Put a shop out in front of the Tomb of Horrors, and they sent the monk over to to sit there and catch the arrows as they came out of the arrow trap, and they just made Asurak's Arrow Emporium. and that was their big business idea.
All right, let me
And I
Oh,
like
find
that
this
one. I
note
was
here.
like, yeah, I was like, screw it, that one works. You get a contract with the Duke. You're all filthy rich.
All right, here we go. All right, I think you guys have pretty much summed it up. Because to be fair, and this happens all the time. This is why I let segments 1 and 2 go a little longer. Segment 3, a lot of times, is addressed in segments 1 and 2. So I pretty much predicted that was going to happen anyway, and there wasn't really much new to add here. I think you guys got the rundown on this. Most of this seems to be, at least with this panel, seems to be rewards that are character driven, story driven, narrative driven, not so much game mechanically driven, because those tend to be more individual rewards. And if you're growing in the world, whether you like the growth or not, you're still growing, and you're still part of it. You're still alive. You can still, your character is still alive. You can still make the changes you want to make. So there's nothing but growth, in my opinion.
Be the change you want to see in the campaign world. Yes, I agree.
There you go. All right. So, where are we here? Up next in segment 4, we allow you, our live audience, to jump in and talk to our panelists. Remember, it's about the panelists, not about me. To talk about tonight's topic. Let me get the link out there. Here is the URL to join if you want to pop on in and ask them a question while we wait for some folks to join us. Right now is the time to become a Legion channel members. You see a bunch of people have done that today. Plus, we had some gifted memberships by hitting that join button. You can also support us after the live stream with a super thanks. Remember, without your support, we will be off the air in 2027. I don't want that to happen. Thanks again to all the folks who have been reposting, retweeting, whatever it's called, our Instagram and X. I guess they're just basically advertisements. I'm not good at social media. I don't spend a lot of time on there. So every little bit that you guys helps, well, I can do nothing but thank you for. So thank you very much. Do you think you have more panel presence, better opinions, more experience, or something else to improve upon a panel like this? Well, sign up on the Game Master Insight Discord, read the rules, and find a panel topic that interests you. Now, let's read some of the super chats and Rumble rants. I know we got one. What is all that noise?
Sorry, my dog apparently has decided that he has the sniffles.
Okay. All right. Bar One Studios for $2 says MCU hobos. By the way, I joined the Discord. Those seem to be two not connected statements here, but yep, I saw you on the Discord. Appreciate that. Jump into some conversations. I've been a bit away from the Discord recently, mostly because I've been trying to do a lot of catch up on things that I need to get done quick, fast, in a hurry. Because apparently I have I'm not gonna talk about that until the members only. But yeah, I've got a bunch of things, bunch of irons in the fire, so to speak, and that just makes things like Discord kind of go the wayside. But there are a lot of people there that hopefully will enjoy your conversations. And Bar One Studios also became a member. Look at that.
Hey.
Actually, no, he gifted a membership. So Tiki3, there you go. Tiki3 received a membership. So thank you very much for that. So I have had this question asked a couple of times, so I will answer it even if you're not asking it right now. No, nobody ever re-ups the memberships. I mean, the ones who are members do, but the people who are gifted memberships, I think I've had 2 people total. One actually did it today. But they unfortunately don't re-up the memberships. That's just the way it is.
Most
I understand.
don't, no.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
same on my music channel.
but I do thank you for the thought, and you know what? It still helps me out at least for 1 month, so that is awesome. But some people worry about this, like, hey, if I do this, and this person will be a member longer. No.
By the way, Vicky, so you saw Beans, and then earlier you saw Misty jump up on me. It is getting close to food time for the cats, so they feel the way the campaign can progress is more treats.
So that's a mechanical.
True.
Yeah, I definitely think that every one of my cats would also agree with the more treats. We're very lucky that mine's actually sat next to me when she's fast asleep.
Well, mine tried to kill one of my other ones while we were streaming.
Mine are all locked out of the office.
Mine's litter boxes in here. I can't do that.
Oops, that's still on the screen. All right. It is now time for segment 4 where you can have your say. Now, before we bring anyone in to talk to the panel, I need to remind you of a few things. If you don't want to get booted and possibly banned, do not break YouTube's terms of service. Also, stay on topic. Unless someone specifically super chats more time for you, you have 5 minutes maximum for your back and forth. So make your point quickly. And no matter what, the show has a hard stop in about 20 minutes. So at 2 hours and 30 minutes, this means we may not get to everyone. And with that, let's get this back off the screen here. Let's see if anybody wants to jump in and talk to you guys about progression. In the meantime,
Come on, do
with
it.
my notes for later. But anything that you guys want to address from tonight's topic that you didn't get to say, or that you think is left on the table, or do you guys think you said everything you needed to?
Click the link. It'll make you a sexual Tyrannosaurus.
Just like me. That's the problem around here is y'all a bunch of slack-jawed something or others.
Yeah, remember, we're not in members only yet.
I'm from the Baja. I live in the Baja now. I invented Coca-Cola.
Bye. We don't want you back in Minnesota anymore.
That's okay. I was the governor.
You know,
It
his
was
first 2
Jesse the
years, he was
Thinker.
good. The last 2 years, not so much. All right. So, folks out there, wow.
Come on, guys. Someone come in and talk to us, please. I mean, come on. Talk to
We're
Vicky.
not
at least.
scary. We're nice, aren't we? We're all
Vicky's
nice.
not scary. Vicky's not.
I'm not scary.
Oops. No, I guess I do leave it there.
Come on, guys. Progress the show.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not
All
going
right, I'm out.
I do allow a couple minutes for people to think, or maybe, trying to get the webcam working or whatever it happens to be. But I'm not going to stay here for 20 minutes waiting for somebody to pop in. If somebody doesn't come in like next 2 to 3 minutes, then that's fine. You don't have to. And we'll move it on to the members only a little earlier tonight. That's happened. Unlike the last 2 weeks where it's like, we got to get to members only. So it happens. But the link is out there for Ferks. For Ferks. I don't know what Ferks is, but for folks, there we go.
All you Ferks, come in here now. Come on, more Ferks, more Ferks.
ISO.
Don't go near the whelps.
Gotcha. I didn't like World of Warcraft, but that one was always funny. More dots.
More
Especially-
dots, more dots, more dots. Enough dots.
Oh, we got to laugh.
I will put the link out there one more time for folks, and if nobody jumps, then we're going to move on into members only.
I'm just taking it as a sign that we covered the topic so well.
You did.
Yes, it's obviously there was nothing else left to say.
What? We do have somebody. You got 5 minutes, so we got Barwin Studios in here. Go ahead and ask them your questions or make your comment.
Well, I guess first I'll just make a comment that if you can hear me, right?
Yep, you got you loud and
Yep.
clear.
Okay, cool. I'm going off my phone. So a woman DM here has also just with a shop and everything, and a couple of guys might, but she's advocating cozy / slow life gaming, and that is kind of a hit right now in also the lit RPG scene, especially among like Japanese light novels. As you see, as you see people who are worked to death, just imagine, hey, if I had a second chance, man, I just run a shop or something out in the middle of nowhere. So there is a fantasy in just actually having the ability to decompress as part of your living.
I did not back pumpkin spice for a reason.
Yeah, funnily enough, when we were doing it, and funny, I wasn't the only player who had a shop. There was also another player who had a blacksmith. I had what was it, apothecary and arcanist. So I did all of that really good fun stuff, and I ended up with jewel crafting as well. And when you have a look at what we actually did, it ran in the background. So a lot of the actual role playing, etc., it was right at the very beginning, and then it was NPC based at times, and it gained us access to things we might not have gained, but it certainly didn't slow down the rate of play, because what we actually did is we basically had a normal campaign and adventure that wrapped around everything. And the shops were the reason we were there in the first place, because that's where we'd gone to start our businesses. And then there was something that happened and we went out and we dealt with it, and that's how we came together as a group. So it certainly wasn't what I would call lit RPG. It was a full-on campaign. We actually took it past 20th level. We took it to 23, 24. We did epic levels and we did a full-blown campaign. We wrapped it all up. And we actually took on some really big bads. It was fantastic fun. But yeah, so it was always a side thing. So the shops never dominated the actual campaign play. And I think that's really important. If you're doing stuff like that, it should enhance, not divert. The minute it diverts you, that's it.
Well,
Did that make sense?
And a good rule set will be robust enough to allow for just about any form of gaming.
Yeah.
Also, while on other things, I'm gonna fire off I might on the Discord fire off some ideas that I've been having. I'm trying to hammer out a book myself, of course, like everybody in the chat, right?
It's the thing to do. Self-publishing is easy now. Why not get your ideas out there, right?
Well, I had a few ideas for, Rifter articles gradually, since that's gone away, gradually going into the size of actual books. So, I'm about the only freelancer that hasn't turned in a manuscript.
I got you. Well, hey, since we do have another minute or so here with you, normally I try not to jump in here, but I'll say this. One of the things that I've noticed, I was going to say this in the members only. No, I won't save it. When it comes to things like shops and so forth, I see it more in sci-fi games, believe it or not, with my players than in fantasy. In my experience, people want to set up a shop, like some sort of resource that they need for fuel or whatever on a planet. I've actually witnessed that more in science fiction games, some sort of hustle, interstellar hustle, than I have in the fantasy games where they just want to chop stuff up and get the gold.
It makes more sense in it makes a lot more sense in a sci-fi game or even a cyberpunk game. Because
yes,
especially like cyberpunk, because cyberpunk, you're trying to struggle to survive. It's all about struggling to get some money, and that's a way to possibly get that better life that you're moving for. In fantasy, especially when you get to high level, I wield the power of the cosmos. I can literally walk outside and crush a diamond in my hand and grant myself any wish. And apparently, my wish is to sell artisanal cheeses. It doesn't make any sense.
Man. Don't come.
Well, you also have, I think in the sci-fi settings and stuff, more modern, since instead of trading in gold coins, you also have access to credit cards and stuff. And guess what? That you can set up those shops or whatever as passive income, so you're never strapped for cashes necessarily.
All right, well, that is your 5 minutes, and I have to play tight, hardball on this. So, but thank you,
Later.
Bar1. I appreciate you popping up in here, and I hope you have a good night.
You're welcome.
Thank you for coming
Awesome.
along.
There we go. That is somebody who hadn't popped in before, and I like seeing that. That's good stuff right there. So I'm putting out the last call out there for folks. If anybody else wants to pop on in, and you know what? Didn't even have to say anything like, "Hey, mute your YouTube channel," or whatever else.
Turn your radio off.
Yeah, turn your radio
on in the background.
First time caller, long time listener.
Yeah. So good stuff. And I think he made good point. So, but yeah, the idea of I wouldn't since I already started talking about it, I'll do this, and then if nobody else pops in, we'll zone it out to the members only side. I wouldn't stop players from setting up some sort of shop as long as it's legitimate. And what I mean by that, they weren't just trying to rationalize some nonsense behavior or whatever. And two, as long as it involved the entire group, or at least those who wanted to participate, and you didn't have somebody else, sitting on the side going, "Just tell me when they're done." That'd have to be something that we'd work out as a group. But I would let them do that if it didn't take up, normal time, I guess you'd say. So, in some games like Mutant Year Zero, that's actually a class. It's not called shop.
There you go, bringing class into it again.
Yep.
That's what it's all about. They're exploiting the workers.
These guys would lose so many experience points at my table. 2 movies you're not allowed to quote at my table because it's overdone.
What are they?
Well, you know what one is because we were just doing.
What's the other?
What do you think it is? What movie?
I don't know. You're a fucking psycho.
Do nerds always have to quote in the right circumstance? It's a little more esoteric than Monty Python, but not by much.
Lord of the Rings.
Sci-fi.
I would think Princess Bride.
Sci-fi. Star Wars.
Believe it or not, no, because that doesn't come up. Aliens.
Game over, man.
Yeah. No, believe it or not, most people don't understand Princess Bride quotes, and if they do it,
Where's the real pretty
shit? We do have a
now?
strange woman lying in ponds distributing swords here from her store.
The only one that comes up from
government
from Princess Bride is inconceivable. Okay, yeah. Okay, let's move on.
You keep using that word. I do not think it means what you think it means.
All right, well, there we go. I'm going to call it here, which is fine. By the way, just want to remind you, don't leave yet, because that's it for the public portion of tonight's Game Master Insight. YouTube members, like you new ones, there is more to come, so don't go anywhere. Sincere thank you to everyone who supported the show with Super Chats, Rumble Rants, memberships, and if you did any sort of silent supporting behind the scenes, the links in the description, and of all of you who took the time to join us tonight. Finally, thank you very much to tonight's panelists for their time and for their informative and spirited discussions. Be sure to check out the links in the description. Their links in the description. You'll get mine too, but go to theirs. Check out their channels. Check out their YouTubes. Check out their whatever they're selling, whatever link they gave me. Check them out. And with that, I look forward to doing this. Let me get this on the screen. There we go. I look forward to doing this next time.